Ancient Indians were well versed in sciences. For various reasons, their successors could not uphold the legacy of their forefathers. In the early medieval era, people from the Islam-dominated world gradually overtook the Indians in their proficiency in sciences. From the mid-16th century, the Western world witnessed rapid developments in sciences through frequent innovations and discoveries. This was the result of a growing culture of experiment and research. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, the harbinger of modern education in India, had strongly advocated the inclusion of Western sciences in the syllabi of schools and colleges. Following in his footsteps, Dr. Mahendra Lal Sircar suggested that an underdeveloped country like India could only make progress through the cultivation of science.
To the present generation, devotee of science like Dr. Mahendra Lal Sircar is quite a forgotten name. During the end of the 19th century, he was tremendously inclined towards medical scientific research work. He wanted that, like in other countries, there also should be a scientific research institution in our country also. For that, his tremendous hard work and selfless dedication in this particular field, he had made himself a pioneer of sorts, in fact. Actually, though he was not a scientist in fact, but he was the time worshipper of science literally. Great result was that he created Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science, which has given birth to many a renowned scientist of the past and the present, and will keep on doing this good work. He was my great-great-grandfather.
Taking advantage of the cultural and intellectual awakening in 19th century Bengal, Mahendra Lal Sircar founded the Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science that would be solely native and purely national. Its primary purpose was to foster high-quality fundamental research in the basic sciences. Mahendra Lal Sircar was born in Munshirhat, Paikpara, a remote village in the district of Howrah, within then Bengal province, in the year 1833. After losing both his parents, father Ram Tarok and mother Aturmoni, at a very tender age, he shifted to his maternal uncle's house in central Calcutta. He learnt elementary English in a local primary school and then was admitted to the school established by David Hare. After finishing school, Mahendra Lal took admission in Hindu College, where he studied natural philosophy, geometry, astrology, mathematics and science. But the facilities at the then Hindu College did not help him unravel the mysteries of science adequately. The vibrant atmosphere of the neighbouring Calcutta Medical College beckoned him, and he left the course at Hindu College unfinished to take admission in the Calcutta Medical College. Mahendra Lal successfully completed licentiate in medical sciences in 1860, and then he secured an MD degree in 1863. He was only the second person to acquire this distinction.
Dr. Mahendra Lal Sircar was an eminent student in this medical college, and he passed LMS in 1860, and after 3 years he obtained MD degree. He was actually the second MD degree holder from this medical college, and during his studentship he earned lot of name and fame, which is very rare, and actually he obtained many prizes and scholarships during his studentship in this medical college. And I can tell you one story what I have heard. Once Professor Archer, Professor of Ophthalmology, he was teaching anatomy of eye amongst 5th year students in this medical college, and while Dr. Sircar was a first year student and was waiting outside the lecture theatre, and he was hearing to what Professor Archer was teaching, and Professor Archer asked his 5th year students a question on anatomy of eye. Nobody from in the class could answer the question, but Dr. Sircar, who was waiting outside as a first year student, he immediately shouted and told the answer, and Professor Archer was astonished to see that he was a first year student waiting outside and listening to what he was teaching inside the class.
As a practicing physician, Mahendra Lal soon established himself as a leading exponent of allopathic treatment.
After passing, he became the first secretary of Bengal branch of British Medical Association, and then became the vice president of British Medical Association. And in the inaugural lecture, Dr. Sircar criticized homeopathy like anything, but paradoxically later he appreciated homeopathy as a cheaper form of medicine and ultimately started practicing homeopathy also.
For this, he was ostracized by the British Medical Association Calcutta chapter. Its leading lights were Professor Goodeve, Ewart and Waller. They ganged up to eliminate him from medical practice in Calcutta. Because of this, Mahendra Lal Sircar decided to go for homeopathy in full swing, and he had taken his full training under Rajendranath Datta, the famous homeopath of Calcutta, and then he came back with a bang for homeopathy in the city, and he became also a legendary homeopath in no time.
Dr. Sircar had among his patients persons like Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Ramkrishna Paramahansadev, and the Maharaja of Tripura. Except for his loss of faith in allopathic treatment, Mahendra Lal's regard for Western sciences was unswerving.
His main thrust was that the Indians were denied scientific education in India by the colonial authorities. Therefore, Mahendra Lal had already hit upon the idea of establishing a National Science Association from 1867 onwards.
Deriving inspiration from the Royal Institution and the British Association for the Advancement of Science and Activities and publications of Charles Babbage, the founder of the British Association, Dr. Mahendra Lal Sircar started his campaign for an Indian Science Association. The August issue of the Calcutta Journal of Medicine of 1869 carried his vision under the title "On the Desirability of Cultivation of the Sciences by the Natives of India."
He wrote his famous celebrated paper in Calcutta Journal of Medicine declaring that time has come for indigenous research in India on modern science, and the Indians should be doing their own work with their own money and not depend upon the British government.
Encouraged by favourable public opinion, Dr. Sircar also published an appeal to the elite classes of India to contribute generously to this cause. The response was overwhelming. The first subscription account was opened with contribution from Babu Joy Krishna Mukherjee, Raja Kamal Krishna Deb Bahadur and others. Dr. Sircar also enlisted the support of such liberal persons as Ishwar Chandra Bidyasagar, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, Keshav Chandra Sen, Krishna Das Pal and Father Eugene Lafont. The great rationalist Akhoy Kumar Dotto sent his blessings and all his money to Mahendra Lal Sircar for his science association. Rajendra Lal Mitra, the great science pioneer and former president of the Asiatic Society, also helped Dr. Sircar. Mahendra Lal himself committed his life's savings. Once the launching pad was ready, Sircar appealed to the Bengal government for support. But at this stage, Shishir Ghosh and his brother Motilal, who were the founders of the Indian League, placed an alternative proposal before the Lieutenant Governor Sir Richard Temple. They proposed that a technical school in the lines of Technischen Hochschulen of Germany be set up.
In that historic meeting of 1876, Father Eugene Lafont of St. Xavier's College played the main role, because he had suggested that Indians were equally talented in science, and therefore if they were given a chance, then they would also become a Newton or a Herschel or a Hertz. But that was not the sole argument. One of the best arguments was put forward by Rajendra Lal Mitra, where he says that, well, he had already tried the Mechanics Institute, and for that he had to hire experts from abroad, from England, and that was very expensive. And in 6 years experiment, it was found that it was very difficult to train the artisans in that way. Therefore, that project was abandoned. Therefore, in the Mahendra Lal's National Science Institution, first of all, the scientists have to be created for India. There must be a scientific pool, and the Indian scientists would train up the artisan class in India, and that would be the best way, best permanent solution with a minimum expenditure.
Now, Mahendra Lal said, we have nothing against industrial arts, industrial research, but there should be a separate body, and we want to stay separate, and we want to promote basic sciences, because without basic science you cannot have applied science, applied engineering.
Sir Temple, however, found merits in Dr. Sircar's argument. He gave his blessings to the idea of an Indian association for the cultivation of science. The provincial government even offered a house at 210 Beaubazar Street for the association. It was inaugurated on the 29th of July 1876. In 1884, the association got its own lecture theatre, the Albert Temple Hall, which was inaugurated by the Governor-General, Lord Ripon.
Father Lafont and Mahendra Lal Sircar went on giving lectures regularly every week on the dot, on Thursdays and Fridays and Tuesdays. So it was a big show to start with. Then one can talk about the actual lecturers who came up. Jagadish Chandra Bose, as you know, delivered a series of lectures in IACS when there was no apparatus in Presidency College. So he loved to work in IACS because it had lot of equipment. So Jagadish Chandra Bose, Ashutosh Mukherjee was giving lectures on mathematics, Pramodanath Bose was giving lecture in geology. So they were all the great people. Gurudas Banerjee came up, and of course after Mahendra Lal Sircar died, we had C.V. Raman and Meghnad Shah, who did a lot of work for IACS.
The Maharaja of Vijayanagaram donated 30,000 rupees for the renovation of the old dilapidated building that housed the classrooms and the laboratory. This new building was inaugurated in 1891 and named as Vijayanagaram Laboratory. However, IACS did not have a smooth run, and Dr. Sircar died a bitter man.
Mahendra Lal Sircar, of course, had a big dream, namely to really make the first research institute of India in a colonized country. This is completely unprecedented. But on the other hand, there was the question of money. there was the question of properly trained professionals who would be willing to spend time on research, and research was at that time at a very primitive stage. So, his dreams were there, but in reality during his lifetime it would have been, I think, well nigh impossible to achieve the goal that he set before himself.
Mahendra Lal Sircar was dying in the year 1904 with various illnesses, and at that time he wrote a deathbed testament, and there he categorically said that his pet child, brainchild, Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science, had not fulfilled his dream. It had failed to create a generation of scientists in India, and therefore his project was a failure. He had even said that he had not been able to attract the plutocrats of the country, the rich people of the country, to donate for creation of additional chair for different scientific subjects.
It was only after the death of Mahendra Lal Sircar that C.V. Raman, a young person, appeared, and then the rest is history. So eventually it was not a failure, it was a success. So IACS had lot of good volunteers, and we must not forget Amrita Lal, son of Mahendra Lal, who wrote the diaries and who was the second secretary after Mahendra Lal, before C.V. Raman became the secretary. In between 1904 and 1919, for 15 years, Amrita Lal was the pioneer, was a pivot for IACS.
Raman really started working as a scientist in his spare time when he was here as the assistant controller general, and then this was spectacular because in this small period of time really he first made pioneering experiments on acoustics, on various kind of vibration of musical instruments, which earned the fellowship of Royal Society for him. And then came, of course, the pinnacle of discovery, the Raman effect, along with Krishnan, and that immediately drew attention to the importance of this work by the world scientific community, and he was awarded Nobel Prize in a very few years' time.
After receiving the Nobel Prize in 1930, Dr. Raman gratefully recalled Dr. Sircar and his brainchild, the Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science. Till 1934, the association was the only place in India where higher research in physical sciences could be carried out. Students from all over India came to work in the creative atmosphere of the association. K. S. Krishnan, S. Bhagavantam, K. Banerjee, L. Srivastav, N. K. Sethi, C. Prasad and Meghnad Saha are some of the eminent Indian scientists who have worked here. In 1946, the association embarked upon a new development plan under the leadership of Dr. Meghnad Saha.
Meghnad Saha started taking great interest. Vidhan Chandra Rai, the then Chief Minister of Bengal, started taking interest, and then they acquired about 15 acres of land in Jadavpur, opposite Jadavpur University.
A new campus was set up in Jadavpur around 1952-1953. However, the original objective of the association, which was to cultivate science in all its departments, both with a view to its advancement by original research and to its varied applications to the arts and comforts of life, remains intact.
Meghnad Saha was the first full-time paid director of the institute. He started various departments, started the research in chemistry, and I think by about 1956, the time Saha really died untimely, Indian Association really was a full-fledged research institute with activity not only in some very specialized area, but also one can say in very broad areas of all branches of physics and chemistry.
The Indian Journal of Physics, the prestigious publication of the Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science, is the oldest journal of physics in India. It carries contributions of distinguished physicists from all over the world. Dr. C.V. Raman was its founder editor. The second volume of the journal published his famous article, A New Radiation, reporting the discovery of the Raman effect. At present, the Institute has programs for research leading to the doctoral degree and also for postdoctoral work.
I think we did pretty well, better than I would say the other big institutes like Tata Institute of Fundamental Research or Indian Institute of Science, because Tata Institute and Indian Institute of Science are much more generously funded than Indian Association. But corresponding to the money spent on us, the activity is much higher, and this is noted by the people who really do this kind of analysis of the impact, the total number of papers published, the quality of journal and so on. IACS certainly stands out. It's much better than TIFR and Indian Institute of Science. And also if you go by accolades, the fellowships and the Bhatnagar Award, which is the highest award in Indian science, I think IACS comes only second to Tata Institute and IISc.
Looking at the Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science as one of the premier science institutions, it is now impossible to imagine how difficult it was to just make it happen in a colonial setting. It was not a question of vision only, but one of tenacity and perseverance too.